Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Happy Monday everyone. Yes, Monday again. So you know that means I've got the Mallard and I keep saying it, there's not going to be many more of the Mondays left where I'm going to be saying that. So you can probably see that the Mallard is just sat there behind me, and the reason I'm stood in front of it is because I've already done the work. Today we're just concentrating on the tender, and I can confidently say that we're doing 125 and 126. And the tender has gone through yet another transformation from last week. So let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop, tools in the light, screws and glue, they're holding it tight. Piece by piece, it's a builder's delight, making dreams in the still of the night. Let's get into it, let's get building now. Put it all together, I'll show you how. Screw by screw and a little glue too. Welcome to the workshop, it's waiting for you.
Right, so another exciting day. We've got 125 of the Mallard, and you can probably just see it out of shot there that it's changed a little bit from the last time you saw it. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But today, I've shown you this before, we've got the coal, which I think I've put back in the box. This was about spraying the black and masking it. Now you can probably just about see that I've actually done that. Now, obviously, you saw the blue going on, so I haven't really shown the black going on, but it's just the same as it was before with the chassis, etc. That's just a satin black paint that I've used, and basically just masked off all of this, and then left it, and then sprayed it, and then left it for a little while before removing the masking. The inside of here, it's not too bad. It could have been better, but a lot of this is going to get covered in coal, so I'm not too worried about the condition of this. What I did want to concentrate on is making sure that this bottom area was looking absolutely perfect, which it certainly does. I do need to touch up the red. As you can see, my masking wasn't the best for the red paint, so I'll get that masked up. And I actually need to create a little rod for here. I've managed to break that little pipe section off there, so I'm just going to create another bit of pipe, paint it red, and then that will cover that bit in as well. But that can be left towards the end, otherwise I'm probably likely to break it off again. But I'll get the paint, the red painted, and in this issue, I'll get that touched up. I'll start painting some of the accessory bits, and I'll even get the LNER decals on the side. But as you can see, that blue is looking pretty good. It's a little uneven, but I'm hoping that the gloss is going to really hide a lot of that, and it's only, as you can see, getting into the light. So hopefully, when I put a bit of gloss over that, it'll hide most of that unevenness. So I'll take you through the magazine. I know I showed you a couple of weeks ago, but we've got the doors to attach. We've got the LNER logo to stick on. So the door's going to stick on. We've got the lower section here to paint. Got a couple of extra little bits to paint. And then this is gloss varnishing it, or gloss spraying it. And then we've got a couple of extra tiny bits to go on. And then I think, apart from put it on wheels, I think that's pretty much the tender done. I think we haven't put the coal in that one, but I think that's coming on the next issue. Now, at the time of recording this, I don't know whether I'm going to do that for the next one, for this stage or not. You already know by the description and, in theory, my intro, because I haven't done the intro for this video yet. So, hopefully, when you see the intro, this will be done. It'll probably be hidden out of sight a little bit, but yeah, at least this will be done, and it might, as I say, be filled with coal. I don't know at the moment. I will take you through the magazine as normal. So we've got classic locomotives and Great Railway Journeys. Now, the first thing it says to do is the LNER logos. However, I'm going to do this in a slightly different order. I'm going to leave those till last. What I am going to do is look at this end and bring down the little doors, which have also been painted. And we're going to get those put into place on here. Now, I have only actually painted the one side, but that's really not going to make any difference because once it's in here, yes, you're going to see it from the other side, but I can either paint it from the other side or it's going to get covered in coal. So the other side is not really going to make much difference. Now, as you can see, that fits in there absolutely perfectly. So all I'm going to do is from the back probably, just touch a little bit of glue around it and that will hold that in place. So just holding that where I want it. And just going to run some glue around the back here. Mainly concentrating on where the hinge is and the door catch because that's really all that's attaching this. I'll just put a little bit down the bottom here and a little bit at the top. Like so. And that should be enough to hold that in place. And obviously we've not marked the blue that we've put in there. Next one to do is this lower door. Now this one I probably can't do the same way because it is so low. This is going to go just here. Now it doesn't really show us much of how this goes in, but I think it goes approximately there. Now, as I say, I will put the glue in from this side and try and use the tiniest amount possible. So that's now in there like so. And you can see it's almost impossible probably to get down inside there to actually be able to get a bit of wire in there to actually glue it in any sensible way. So that's what that is looking like. So the next stage is painting this wooden deck section. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me paint the whole thing. I'm just going to try and use some linoleum deck brown. I think that's probably a good enough brown for this one. And then I'll probably do a little bit of black just to like dirty it up and make it look a little bit sooty. All right, so I'm just going to paint obviously the wooden deck here. And I'll say I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. But the idea is that I'm going to do this and I'll use a flat brush like that. And then I'll add some black in as well. And that'll give a effect that it looks a little bit sooty, a little bit dirty. And hopefully make it look a little bit more like wood. Right, so that's now brown. And it sort of looks like wood. But hopefully we can make that look a little bit better. Now this isn't probably 100% dry. It is lacquer paint, so it does dry very quickly. But as I'm sort of after a bit of a blend of colour, then I'm not too worried about that not being totally dry. Now all I'm going to do is dip them in some paint, wipe off the majority of it, sort of like dry brushing. Now I'm no expert on dry brushing or anything like that, but this is what I'm doing. Now you might be shouting at the screen saying I'm doing it completely wrong, but this is my technique and this is what I'm doing. And the idea is here, what I'm doing is hopefully try and put, I suppose, some high traffic areas in. Obviously, this is going to be where the coal all comes out. And quite often, this is where the fireman's probably going to put his foot when he's shoveling it. So I'm happy for it to be more black than brown. Um, so, so it's not going to be 100% perfect, but that will give me a little bit better look rather than just being totally brown. Now I might go over that again with a little tiny bit of brown, sort of the same sort of thing. So I'll just dab off the majority of it and then go over the top of that, and that will add effectively some highlights, I guess, um, until such point as I'm happy with it. Right, so I'm happy with the look of that. Now what I'm going to do is add a few more details, and basically just a bit more painting. Um, So I'm going to be painting a few of these uprights in black. This little tap down here is going to be brass. Um, and yeah, just going to paint those up and I'll show you what that's like in just a moment. Right, so that's a few extra details added to that. So you can see I've painted uh, the black in there. The handles have got black, and then I've done over it with a little bit of metallic grey, just to give a little bit of a worn effect. This one I've painted red up here. I tried looking at various photos to try and get a little bit better idea of what the colours and things would be for this, because the magazine doesn't show you very well. But no one seems to take a picture of this section of the tender, so it's difficult to find out. The closest I got was a Nigel Gresley um, restoration process, where they showed this section of the tender, and these handles actually all red, which is why I painted that on red. Originally I was just leaving that blue because I didn't know what it was. Um, but these are red as well. But I'm just going to leave those black as I've painted them here. It seems to be different no matter which one you look at or which images you look at. In some images I've seen that this door is blue. Same with this one. And some I've seen it's black. So it's going to vary, I think. But it means that the model is unique to me. So it's just as and when what you want to make it, really. Right, one thing I didn't do in issue 124 were these little hoses. Now, these are springs, and I had to cut the little eyelets off the ends, and then we had these little fittings, brake hose fittings, which look like that. We then had to push those into the ends of these springs. Now, we only got two of the fittings, but we've got three springs. Not sure what the third spring is for at the minute, whether that's a spare or we're using that later on. But we just need to glue this into the end of the spring. Right, that's almost an impossible task to get that in there, but it's in. I'm just going to add some glue to it. Now, I do need to paint the ends of these brass, but that is something I missed out in the last issue, which is 124. We're not currently using those at the moment. We will use them in a moment, because one of these will go on here. But for the moment, I'm going to leave it as is. I think the other one actually goes here. So I think we're having one there and one here. But we do need to fit those in a little while in this issue, in 125. And that's what that looks like with both of those now in place. Now, one of the next things to do, or actually the last thing in this stage to do pretty much, is put the LNER decal on the side here. But I think what I want to do first is potentially just give it a light spray in gloss varnish, just to see whether these marks, etc., will disappear with the gloss varnish, and then put the LNER over the top of that. Right, so with the tender now, there's basically one job left, which is to put the LNER decal on. I do also have the glue on as well. That needs to go on the top. But primarily, it's the decal. Now, the reason I've got the body of the main engine here is having a look. There's no real visual indication where that's meant to go, and I've sort of got it roughly placed there. Now, I'm not going to be able to show you putting this in place fully because from looking at various photos, this pretty much sits in line with the cab number, which obviously is just there. So I've put this down on its wheels properly. This is on its wheels, just sat there, so you haven't missed anything. I haven't attached those yet. I'm just going to put them next to each other, prepare the decal, and then sort of visually put it in place with the tender upright. And obviously, I'm going to need to see that. So on none of my cameras are going to show you me putting this on. But I believe you saw the decals going on for the cab side. But that's the ultimate thing that I'm going to be doing. If I just show you potentially on the other camera, that I'm just going to get it wet and then put it on the side and then just move it just to get it in line with that cab number. I'm going to use a bit of the micro sole and the micro set to help me position this and also help get it to set. So just put plenty of that on for a minute. So I can show you the decal potentially going on, just not the final positioning of it. So I've got that in just a tray of water. Just test it. There we go. So it's ready to come off. Now it's going to hopefully slip around really, really nicely on the micro sole, micro set. And then I can just basically position it where I want. So if I just tip that back up on its side. Right, so there it is. Fairly happy with that position. Now, I have used a ruler, and I've just measured up from the bottom, basically resting the ruler on this black section, and just making sure that it's visually level as well. And that's one side done. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side. Now, I have put it pretty much in the center. So we've got 29 to the L from the edge there, and about the same to the edge of the R. Now, I'm not too worried about the decal paper there at a minute, because hopefully a lot of that will blend away with the gloss coat and also a little bit of micro sole as well. Right, I'm going to get this one in place. Now, what I'm going to try and do is just mirror the measurements that I had for the other side, because in theory that'll mean that they are identical. So just pull it back a bit. So front to back, that's about right. And then we just need to move it up a little bit. And then I will still check it against the cab in a moment. But that looks pretty good to me. And that does line up beautifully with the cab number as well. So really happy with that. So now that is done, I'm obviously just going to use another bit of paper towel again. Just hold the decal in place and then just basically draw the liquid from underneath it. Like so. Now I'm going to leave that for a little while, obviously to dry, but then I'll cover it with some micro sole, and that will start to hopefully give us a bit more of a painted on look. Alright, so while waiting for the micro set to set, I'm just going to put the water filler in, which is going to sit just there. Just going to use a bit of glue to get that attached. Give it a wiggle, get that glue spreading around, and it's in there. Now, while the decal's dry on that, I will move on to 126, because I do know in 127 we actually leave the tender and we go back to the main body and the main chassis. So this will be where today's video ends with 126. However, I probably won't be able to do all of it, which is actually going to probably be the coal going in to the hopper. That might be one of the last things I do, mainly because I need to still spray gloss onto this, and obviously sort out, make sure the decal is absolutely perfect on there. So yeah, the only thing that's probably not going to happen in this stage is the coal, which, to be fair, there's still not a great deal to do in this one. We've got a few of the coupling link parts. We need some wire, and also we need the tender and the bag of coal, what it says. Got some holes to drill into the parts we've got, and we're basically just creating the coupling links, as you can see. We do need to do a bit of wire twisting, and then we're attaching that to the bottom of the engine there, and that's where that hose is going to go into. And then this is all about putting in the coal. It's basically just making sure that the center of this is all sealed up. Now what I've done, I've just run some super glue all around the edge there, so that should seal up any gaps that might leak through. They've said about using masking tape or something, or card, to basically seal up any gaps. And then you're going to be putting a 50-50 mix of PVA and water over the coal, and that'll set it all in place. But as I say, I'll do that at a later stage. In this one, we've got classic locomotives and Great Railway Journeys. Right, so these are our parts. I've got a 0.9mm drill bit, and basically got to drill out a load of 0.9mm holes. These two in these two parts here. These little shackles, now they already do have a hole, and it looks like they might already be of the right diameter, which is great. So there's 4 of those, and they've got 2 holes in each of those. But these are not actually holes at all at the moment, they're just dimples. So we do need to drill through those. Right, so that's all the parts cut off the sprue, and I've given them a clean up, just using a file. Just clean up the edge of that one a little bit more. Obviously, these parts are really, really easy to bend, so you want to be careful with them. But we've got this little link section, and basically we need to put the links on there. Now you notice we've got a larger link and a smaller link, so basically one of each on those. We do need to bend these open a little bit, and they're just going to go onto the little notches on the ends. Now obviously, as I say, they are easy to bend, but you don't want to over bend them. So I'm trying the least amount of bending as possible. Right, so that's the smaller link, just there. And then the larger link is going to go over the top of this one here. Now I have opened up these holes very slightly with the 0.9mm drill, and pretty much they were pretty much the right size anyway. But obviously it gets rid of any burrs, etc. inside. And that is one link done, like so. And do the exact same thing for this one. So that's the smaller one on, and put the larger one on as well. Right, so that's our second link done, like so. I say links, I guess they're shackles, really. Right, just going to leave those to one side for a second. What we need to do is one of these, we actually need to cut down to that first hole. It should be about 4mm apparently. So that looks pretty good. And then what we need to do, we need to basically file this down both sides until the distance of that is about 1.5mm. The idea is that this is going to be going into the front of the locomotive body. So just going to file both sides until that's down enough and fits in the front of the engine. Right, so that one is suitably modified, and if I just bring up the other one, you can see how much material I've actually removed. So if I just lay that on top, you can see it's been cut where that first hole is, and top and bottom has basically had the material removed like this, like this. I have also done the faces as well. Seem to be a little bit tight going into the front of the locomotive body, so I've just taken it off. All I was doing, just doing trial and error. As I was doing bits, I was taking it out and putting it into the body, and just seeing if it actually fit in, and it now does fit in. So that's all that needs to be done for that one. We now actually need to put the links onto these, and the way they're going to go is with the smaller shackle upwards. It's going to sit just in there, and we have this piece facing the inner section there. Now, once we're happy with the position of those, we need to bend over this little tab just to lock that in place. So just bent that tab over, and as you can see, that's now staying in there perfectly, like so. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one. Again, smaller shackle going over the top of there. Right, so that's in there like so. And again, just going to use the pliers just to squeeze that over so it can't come out. But obviously we have free movement of that shackle. And that is what that is looking like. Now see, you have a proper coupling there. So if you were doing this as a running layout, then obviously that one would then hook over your other item and you have a nice coupling there. Right, we're not actually doing anything more with those. So that is all there's to do with the couplings. The next thing we need to do is do some twisting of wire. So got a length of 0.4mm wire here. Needs to be at least 50mm long. And basically what we're going to do, bend it over on itself. So just meeting the ends up there. Like so. I'm just going to grab a screwdriver in this end. Right, believe it or not, it's actually not that easy to do it with a screwdriver. So this is the way I'm doing it. I've just put a hook in my drill, holding it tight with the pliers and pulling it on tension. And a twist. And I think that looks absolutely perfect. So we now have that twisted wire like so. So that's your hack for today. Hook in a drill. Now I did use a longer piece of wire, as you can see. I mean, that was probably about 140 when it was full length. But I've got so much of this 0.4mm wire around, it's not really a problem, I don't think. And there's only 6 issues to go, and I really don't think I'm going to use all the wire that I have. I think at the end of this build, I'm going to pull out every single piece of wire that's left over in this build, because we seem to have tons still. And now, with that bent, we need to turn our attention to the lower part of the tender, just being careful of those decals. Interested in this half of the tender here. I'm just going to clip the end of the wire, so we've got a nice flat end. And I basically need to run it along here, put a bend in it, so I'll put a 90-degree bend in it, like so. And we want it to run out like this. And it looks like it's going to come out about there. So I think I'll just tip the chassis up like this on that bit of wood. Put a good amount of glue there. Now I might end up using a bit of epoxy resin as well, just to make sure that this is in there nice and solid. But that's going to sit there, just make sure that the glue is basically covering it. Now I'm fully expecting that to come away while I try and do this, but I can always glue it back in place. We need to come down about 12 millimeters and then bend it 90 degrees outwards. So we've got that bent 90 degrees out there, and then we only need about 3 millimeters of that to stay there. So we'll cut it off about there, and that leaves us that piece like so. And then what we need to do with this hose, that's just going to go like that. And that is what that is looking like. Now the idea is obviously that's simulating chain, so that this is put held up out of the way. You could probably get some small brass chain, just so that it obviously moved around a little bit. But for me, that'll be absolutely perfect. Now I do probably need to do a little bit more touch up on that red, as you can see, but it's not looking too bad. Now, apart from the coal, that is it for 126, and I'm actually going to say that is it for today. The little jobs obviously left to do is the coal, and I need to gloss the tender. I probably won't show you the glossing of the tender, but I need to run a little, probably a bit more microsol over this, just try and get this fading away into the background a little bit more, and then gloss it, and then we'll move on to the next stage, 127, and I believe that is a little bit more to do with the main chassis, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button below and give us a massive thumbs up. So there is the Mallard. I have to say it's looking absolutely fantastic. Really happy with how it's progressing, and obviously really not much more left to do. We've got 127 coming up next week, and next week we're moving away from the tender back onto the body and the chassis, so stay tuned for that one. So I think that's 127, 128, 129, 130, so 4 issues left to go now. Now that probably won't be 4 weeks, because I'll probably double up another couple of magazines, so it might even be just a couple of weeks until this is complete. Now that's probably going to be a very happy day and a very sad day for me, because I've had this for so long. I'm going to be super happy that it's finally complete, but a little bit sad that I won't be working on it anymore. And I think I'm going to have to try and find a really dedicated space for it on the shelf. Possibly not here. It might have to replace might be replacing the Lego train, the Lego Orient Express there with this one. But it does look absolutely fantastic. I might even have to get an O-gauge teak coach or something just to sit behind it, which I think would look very, very good. I don't have any space for an O-gauge layout or anything like that, so as I say, it is just a static model, but it'll probably look a little bit nicer, I think, with maybe a carriage behind it. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see how this progresses or anything else that goes on in the workshop, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell for notifications. That way you won't miss out on future videos. Until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.